Welcome to the, excuse me. Okay. Welcome to the Zoom meeting here, the conference that we've got scheduled with ATSI and OnviSource. Welcome. We're going to let OnviSource basically run this meeting. And we ask that if anybody has any questions, write them down, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, if that's okay. And if we're all ready, then Francisca, let's go ahead and get this started.
Thank you so much, James. I appreciate that. Well, so during our discussion today, we'll take a brief look at just the TAS industry and what the analysts are saying, what's happening with the industry. We're going to look at what's impacting, what's adding to the challenges in the industry, but certainly also focus on the solutions and the benefits. But more specifically also, looking at how automated quality assurance drives the agent performance and client satisfaction. So looking forward to a lot of questions from everyone attending today. But co-presenting with me, I have Brian Severson, who is our Vice President of Product Management, and Kim Pippin, Senior Account Executive, and of course myself, Francisca Alegria, Chief Revenue Officer. So, we have been in the industry quite a long time, especially Kim. I always say nobody knows more about the TAS industry than Kim. So, we also speak from our own experience, but some of the market data that I'm using here is really derives from official research and analyst. And what you can see here from the current market data and also the forecast is that the number of firms have really increased over the years with good growth expected if you look at the market forecast for the next 5 years. And interestingly enough, the market does show a slow decline in the average number of employees. Of course, it could be due to COVID or some staffing challenges that I think everyone is still facing. But just if you look at the cost, it doesn't matter if there's a decline. The employees still remain the biggest part of the operating cost. So, however, with companies entering the market, it is really important to attract new customers and also make sure that your current customers are happy. So focusing on that customer retention as a high priority with the market growing so much. And if we look at the next slide that really shows where the concentration lies, there you can see the biggest markets being New Jersey, Washington, Florida, Illinois, and Pennsylvania. Now, looking at, sorry, Kim, you can go to the next slide. If I was just looking at the average income statement of a TAS company, the financial metrics shown here provide just a snapshot of what that average company in the TAS market would look like. And as I mentioned, and these are specific numbers given by analysts, by the way, and it clearly shows that the operating cost at 64%, employees are the biggest expense. Now, from what I, just said, that really the focus is highlighted in 2 areas. Number one, the market is growing and it's becoming more important than ever to focus on your client satisfaction and retention, as well as growing your client base. And secondly, because of your human capital, your employees, that's your biggest expense, it is more essential than ever that you really increase performance and you make sure that, quality compliance, your accurate information is conveyed from the employee. All those areas become critical to your company so that you don't add to additional unnecessary expense for poor performance and so on. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Now, before we delve into the challenges and solutions of the TaaS industry, I thought I would share a short video clip that really gives a glimpse into the mind of an agent that adds to our challenges, which I'm sure you've seen before.
Why, yes. I'd love to spend the next 10 minutes of my life being told what a horrible person I am by a stranger.
I'll definitely transfer you to my supervisor who will give you the same information I just gave you.
As soon as you started yelling, I zoned out.
I'm not sorry I placed you on hold for 5 minutes. I was hoping you'd hang up.
Oh, you're never going to use our company again? Great. That means I'll never have to talk to you again. Have a great day.
Okay. Well, listen, I had to bring in a little bit of sense of humor because sometimes we need a sense of humor with the challenges we deal with, right? And no doubt that obviously just a snippet from what we've seen now, it has a major negative impact to our businesses when our agents are not performing, when their poor performance is really affecting our customers. Because essentially you're paying for something you're not getting, and how that leaves your customers unhappy is a major impact to your business. So how we deal with these challenges, the employee performance, the workforce and the payroll cost, these are all added challenges to the TaaS industry. And really, I'm sure all of you have seen the staffing challenges, continuously training, onboarding, and with your current employees. I'm sure many of you are dealing with agents that's remote. And how do you manage that? How do you really know if they are doing their jobs, how they are speaking to your customers? These are added challenges that we see on a daily basis. And Kim, I know with you being in the industry for over 17 years, you see your own challenges when you speak to our customers.
I do. I can really see how, customer dissatisfaction, it's emphasized through not only the poor actions of like said agents, but without listening to every call that's taken inside your business, owners and managers, and they just don't really have an understanding of, that customer sentiment on a daily basis on all calls. Maybe the customer error reporting is a higher rate than even they're aware of, as well as excessive hold time. And sometimes hold time isn't necessarily on hold on a call. It might be where the agent is just like agent silence. This kind of plays into that as well. Just due to maybe trying to figure out what to do on the account or trying to find the next steps because maybe it's not readily available. So the 100% AQA can kind of help you pick up on those things. Because, supervisors, they just can't do all calls. They can't listen to every call that comes in unless you have the same number of QA supervisors as you have agents. And that's not going to work in any business. And those business insights that you guys can gain from doing that 100% AQA, it will be, I call it a game changer to find out exactly what's going on inside those calls without having to, again, scan through them. I know probably a lot of you guys are doing the manual, 5 or 10 calls per agent per day or even per week. But the likelihood that you're finding the calls that they're really failing on are real slim when you're only listening to maybe 3, 4, 5% of those calls. So you're really missing out on that good compliance and business insights that are available inside those calls.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And I think you kind of just started to touch on, what would be the solution the industry needs. And, those challenges are really addressed when you can start to QA or, do the quality assurance and monitor, review, and score all the agent interactions. And a solution that will provide the QA and compliance, yes, is if you start to automate it And if you're able to review 100% of your calls or interactions, or at least most of the calls, you will start to discover, what is the agent poor performance, or what is the actual problem, and how is this resulting in customer dissatisfaction, and also discovering who's my best agents and how can I reward them. And also knowing that work from home agents poses its own challenges, as I mentioned earlier. Really understanding their performance, and also areas such as call avoidance or silence detection. How long is somebody on hold? Um, and last but not least, have a solution so you can really understand the sentiment and behavior and topics your customers are speaking to.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Francisca, 100%. The positive impacts of that automated quality assurance is you've got that high performing agent that just seems to hit it spot on every time. Use those recordings to train those low performing agents to get them to that point. Because if we're improving our customer satisfaction, then that means customer loyalty, and we're all looking for those loyal customers. So how you service their clients will make them a loyal customer. And that remote management, it's always hard, and I know it's a topic I hear a lot. It helps you to really see how those remote agents, are they doing the phrases that you're telling them they have to do, or are they missing one out of the two, or maybe two out of the three. It's a great way to find a complete holistic understanding of what's really going on inside those calls, to help all businesses gain that intelligence that they're needing.
And if we looked at the cost associated, if I wanted to um, do manual QA for all my interactions, here I show a breakdown, and Kim, you can just click the next two. So if I, as an average, use maybe 10 agents operating in different shifts of 8 hours, then this may result in 1,900 recorded hours of interactions. And so if I were to manually QA all those calls, I would realistically need 16 QA supervisors, which that cost is absolutely exorbitant. Realistically, it would cost me about $64,000. So manual QA on a large scale is just financially impossible. Thus, most of the companies only achieve about 5% of the QA for all their interactions. And additionally, manual QA provides no business insights and really no true value. In a lot of the cases, it's done after the fact, so you're being reactive and not proactive. Now, a current solution that is available to the industry is to use AI-driven and automated interaction analytics. So firstly, let me say, I think just saying those words, it does sound costly, but really it shouldn't be. In fact, the cost should be far less than any human effort. And using advanced technologies, automated interaction analytics, you will be able to process 100% of your call volume in near real time. Additionally, you'll have a cloud solution, especially when you think of your at-home agents. You want everything to be easily accessible. And you want to automate your quality assurance, your compliance, and your agent scoring. And really understand your agent hard skills and soft skills. discover those repeat calls to improve the first call resolution, and really understand again your customer sentiment, the trends, behavior, and my business intelligence. Really, what is my customers talking about? What are they complaining about? What are they not happy about? What are they actually saying? There's a solution like this is where all of these areas can be addressed. And if you want to be competitive in the market, as we saw from the market data, this is where solutions or technology like this becomes extremely important for you to operate on a higher level. Your agents are top performers, your clients are happy, they're going to stay with you, and you can gain more customers. Okay. Now, if I just look at a quick ROI, in comparison to the previous example that I used for the manual efforts, now versus the using interaction analytics, and that includes the automated QA. From our previous calculation for the manual efforts, if I took the same 1900 hours of recorded calls, knowing that if I wanted to analyze 100% of those calls, I would really need 16 supervisors. That cost, as I mentioned, would be around 64,000 per month. Versus if I take the same volume and I use automated quality assurance for that volume of hours, my cost would only be 1,500. So that ROI becomes very visible very soon when you're starting to pay much less for really, you can gain much more from it. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to hand it over to Brian Severson. He does have a case study which he is going to speak to.
Perfect. Thank you, Francisca. So yeah, we'll talk about a real world case study with Billy Clark, go over the solution a little bit, as well as a kind of sample of what we did for them as far as, or I'm sorry, what was done for them as far as the AQA. So as far as the solution goes, they really needed an automated quality assurance and compliance management solution. And Francisca talked about this, right? There's just no way that any of us, right, in any business has the manpower to sit down and go through all these calls, right, and go through 100% of them and evaluate the agents, pull out business intelligence and things like that. It has to be automated these days. They needed an advanced automation and AI machine learning solution, right, with actionable knowledge from BI reports. And once again, this is critical because, you know, depending on how you're basically implementing QA, you need to have a variety of technologies available to you to basically score these calls and pull out what you need. It's not, you know, a one size fits all. And if you don't have these kinds of advanced, you know, machine learning techniques and things like that, it's going to be very difficult to fine tune something like an AQA template and make sure that it's accurate. They had to have it delivered as a cloud service, and they needed a, you know, web-based portal for it, right? So once again, being able to access it anytime from anywhere, not something that's an on-prem system where you had to be on the network. Here again, they also needed, you know, somebody to come in and initially develop these QA templates for them, as well as the BI reports to make sure that they were delivering what they needed. So with that, we can kind of take a look at a sample, right, of how their automated QA, you know, functions. One of the things that was super important to them, and I think this is probably across the board, right, is the number identification. And that's just making sure that, you know, if the caller gives the number, the agent's repeating it back to them. Or if the agent sees the caller ID and the caller does not provide it to him, the agent is still, you know, repeating that number back for confirmation. The name spelling is also, you know, very critical for everybody. It may have been a little unique for Billy Clark in that saying the name back was not, you know, good enough. That wasn't the requirement, right? They had to spell it. So they had to have a solution that could look for not only, you know, someone repeating the name back, but actually understand the difference and pick up on the fact that they were spelling it out, you know, back to that caller. They have what they call a wow factor. And this is just using, you know, specific phrases that kind of go a little bit above and beyond, right? Make the caller feel good about the interaction, you know, saying things like, it's my pleasure to help you, or, you know, things like that. So here again, that extra little bit of courtesy that the agent can provide. The answer phrase, of course, and once again, this goes back into having multiple ways to basically utilize AI, different algorithms and things like that. Machine learning in this case, because every answer phrase is a little bit different. You've got multiple clients, right? So the agent's not always going to say the exact same thing. So you have to be able to train a model that will understand all those different various ways that basically they could say that answer phrase. Offering to assist. So once again, the agent is required, to ask the caller, can they gather some information? And then finally, putting out, reports around the QA scores themselves, the different individual reports for the agents, how they're trending, as well as, looking at certain questions and see how those are trending, finding out, are we doing good in one spot and not another, right? So it's very easy to kind of identify those things if you've got the right business intelligence reports. Okay, so that's kind of the Billy Clark case study. And we can take questions about that at the end of the presentation if you want. I'll talk a little bit about vendor selection and implementation guidelines and what's important. And not to be scary up at the top, but beware, right? And it's really true that everybody's going to put on a great presentation, but it's really important to make sure that they follow through, because this happens all the time. And it kind of goes right into the next bullet point about AI being overused. It's not a magic machine. I don't care what anybody's going to tell you. There's no just turning it on and everything just works, right? You've got to have, knowledge-based, professional services that can basically go in there and fine tune these things for you and for your environment, and also for the specific needs of your business, right? So it is not just a black box that you can turn on, even though people may present it that way. As far as volume and pricing, somewhere between 100,000 to 200,000 minutes per month should be totally adequate, right, for your average sized telephone answering service. And then when you look at those prices, that should be somewhere between $1,500 to $24 a month if you're in the cloud, right? So these are just some of the things to consider, when you're looking at a vendor. As far as features and services, we talked a little bit about it, right? It should be a fully featured cloud-based interaction analytics system. And that means that on top of AQA, you've got other things, right, that can bring forward to you: business intelligence, trends, maybe discovering things that you weren't even aware were going on, within those interactions. And then you've got to have a way to deliver that, right? Bottom line, actionable knowledge in a visual way, like through a BI platform or something. And all of that is really structured around, improving agent performance, your business processes, and your customer satisfaction, of course. We talked about the competitive prices, right? So they should be somewhere within that range, right? That's the going rates for a service like this. And it should also be offered in real time or near real time. Here again, nobody wants to wait a week to get results. Whatever incident may have occurred has already happened. And you're going backwards in time trying to correct it. Whereas if you can get these results in real time or near real time, you can kind of get ahead of a problem before it becomes a bigger one. And we talked about the web-based portal, right? We want to make sure that we can access that from anywhere. Most people these days are mobile, they're at home, they're wherever they are. So you need to be able to get to, the system from wherever that is. And then I think the last bullet point is really one of the most important. If you've got someone that's just once again trying to hand you a black box, it's not going to be successful. And we've seen this over and over again over the years from talking to different customers and things like that. You need someone that's really going to sit down and consult with you and understand exactly what you want. And it goes back to kind of that example with the name repeat for Billy Clark. A lot of people may just say it's fine. As long as they repeated the name back to them, it's good. But here again, being able to customize to exactly what the customer needs. And in that case, it would be Billy Clark wanting to make sure that they spelled it back, didn't just say it back, right? So these are some of the kinds of examples that, you need to understand people's exact requirements and being able to tune the technology to work for your environment. The vendor should be able to come in and actually create these things for you, right? Test them, sit down with you and make sure that you're satisfied with the results, not just, here again, install the system, do a little bit of training, and tell you to have a nice day, right? That rarely is going to work in an analytics environment. And then there should be trainings, and consultations on a weekly basis, or even sometimes more, just to make sure here again that you're, the customer's seeing the value, and that you're meeting all the requirements. So Here again, just kind of a quick snapshot of what we think is really important when you look at a vendor.
Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
Well, I do want to open it up to everyone participating, and I would love to hear some questions from everyone. And I really do hope that some of the areas that we spoke to you resonate with and you've seen in your own business and some of the challenges and how to overcome it. But I would love to hear from the group. I don't have any questions.
Yep. If anybody has any questions, now's the time. I do have one. How quickly can a message be, judged, I guess, so to speak, and then turned around and given back to us? You say near real time, but about approximately how long would it take for it to be graded and sent back?
Yeah, so this is as far as the processing goes. So if we're talking about, doing a transcription of a voice interaction, running it through the analytics and turning it back to you. So say that on average, the calls that most cell phone answering services take are somewhere between 1.5 minutes and 3 minutes. We can do that actual processing faster than real time, meaning we can probably turn that back around in somewhere between, 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. And of course, if you have longer calls, that can vary, right? But especially with telephone answering services where it's very quick, right, or very consistent on the length of call. Yeah, I would say somewhere in around that time frame.
Wow.
Yeah.
Robert, I did see your question, and absolutely, I know that Sarah is recording this, and they will get it to the ATSI members just as soon as they possibly can. Sarah, I don't know, you were talking maybe Monday, I had thought.
Yep, we will have the recording out, and if you want to provide the PowerPoint slide as well, we can certainly send that out too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be happy to
Yeah.
share that.
I like the market data that you showed, because I mean, that was really informative.
Well, good. And this is new market data that was just released. When I looked at it last year, the task market was still very flat, and it really still showed no growth, even in the forecast. So it was really good to look at it this year to see, all of a sudden that growth is forecasted. So things are happening in the industry. Yeah, which is good and exciting, right?
Right. Well, it looks like people are putting messages in the queue or in the chat. Let's see, what do we have?
So back to getting the copy of it, will this be sent to us automatically, or do we need to request it, or?
We'll send it out to all the members, Robert, so you'll get a copy.
Okay,
But
thank
yeah,
you.
if you don't get it for whatever reason, you can certainly let me know. But it will go to all members.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, there you go. And we have a question from Deborah Cromwell. She says, Brian, what if someone is using a Q&A scored card that is not from OnviSource?
Yes. Well, yeah, to us, it really doesn't matter where it comes from. I would think in the case of most of the people that are attending this, they're going to be using some form of an ATSI QA, scorecard. However, we can accommodate any customization you want, right? So every customer is always a little bit different. And that's why it's important that you got that flexibility. So even if you're following the ATSI standard, there's typically going to be things that you may want to look at in addition to those normal questions and things like that. But absolutely, we can customize it for whatever you need.
So it is personalized then for each individual business.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, I will say too, along with that we do have an ATSI standard, right? That we can deploy day one and just get that out and going. But of course, any of the customization you need, we can always do on top of that.
That's fair enough.
And I think it's worth noting you're not just stuck with one QA template. I mean, you can
Right.
have as many as you want.
No, we have, customers that have many, many templates, right? And it's usually because they have different lines of business, right? So you may have customer service calls, you may have outbound sales calls, you could have technical support, you could have all these different things, sales, right? So each one of those QA forms would be customized for that individual type of interaction.
So you can actually do an outbound sales call.
We can score any kind of a call, right? It's
Wow.
just the criteria for doing it would be slightly different.
Right.
On a form like that, you'd be looking more for things like, were there upsell opportunities? Did the agent take advantage of those? You know, what was the success rate of it? Things like that. But yeah, absolutely, you can customize these for any type of call.
Well, that's pretty cool. We have another message from Michael Crossman. He says, can you customize to the level of ensuring script adherence? If so, how do you determine the script on a non-OnV based system?
Yeah, so I have to say script adherence is actually one of the easier ones to implement because it's strict, right? And it's the same thing over and over. It's not something like soft skills where you have to go in and train like a machine learning model for it. So much easier to just look at, you know, the agent is supposed to say this on every single call, and here, you know, here's the phrase. Those type of implementations can go very, very quick. Typically, once we got everything up, we got some calls ingested into the system, and we have a service engineer or analytics specialists working on it. I mean, for basic script adherence, maybe a day and a half, something like that to go through it. I think it takes a little bit longer when you get into some of that customization that we were talking about, right? And you're working and consulting with the client, and you have to understand their individual nuance things that they want out of it. But yeah, script adherence, compliance statements, very, very simple.
Okay, that's awesome. A message from Mike Petrata. He says, can you speak to implementation timeframes from consultation to up and running?
Sure. So I think that does vary slightly, right? Because here again, it depends on how much customization you need. If you look at somebody like Billy Clark, I would say they needed moderate customization, but there was also probably a lot of back and forth trying to decide exactly what they wanted in the end result. If you kind of know straight up front exactly what you're looking for and can identify that, it's going to go a little bit quicker. It's a hard question to answer. We've had them gone as quickly as a week, right, from the time that we basically got started to many months. And that's just, here again, really sitting down with a customer and understanding all the fine nuances of it. But this kind of goes back to the script adherence. Those are very simple. But when you've got a lot of customization, we have to do things like machine learning. It takes a lot of examples to train a model like that, and can be a little more time consuming.
Okay. A question from Randy Ripke. How does your system obtain the audio?
That can come with several different ways. So we've got some customers that basically just do what we would call an overlay, where we essentially give them a secure FTP site, and they go in and they drop the audio in along with a metadata file that gives you metadata about that interaction. And you can do that through a process that's created. It's in near real time where they're pushing it up to us. Some people drop it in batches, right? So they come in once a day overnight and drop a whole load of them in there. We can also do direct integrations where we're pulling, from the recording platform. So, somebody like Billy Clark that's on StarTel, that's basically how that's set up. It just goes in, it pulls the file out of a directory, it parses out the metadata from the file name, and then does the ingestion automatically. So several different ways to do it. We can do direct integrations, or we can do kind of a passive overlay.
Okay. And this is not just StarTel specific. This is available on every platform.
Yeah, we can overlay on any recording platform.
Very cool. Does anybody else have any questions? I don't see anything coming in across the chat board. If not, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Thank you, OnviSource, for presenting this to us. We really do appreciate it. Very informative, and it's a good source. It's a good. It looks like it's a great product to use. From Billy Clark, would you guys like to say anything? the users that are actually using it? And I see a smile.
I believe we do have Susie.
Yes,
If you don't mind us putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Not putting you on the spot right now, Susie. I'm calling you out.
You know, what I've loved the most is, like Brian had said, we had quite a bit of back and forth, and what I most appreciated with Onvi is the response and the willingness to work with us and really hear what our needs were, and just the support from them. So it's been great.
Good to hear. Okay. Well, if nobody else has any questions, and if there's any last comments that anybody from OnviSource would like to make?
No, I just, you know, Kim will be reaching out to the attendees of the webinar. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be more questions afterwards, and we certainly want to make sure that we address all of those. And yes, we will share the slide deck, and that will go out to everyone. And looking forward to any additional questions that anyone may have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Francisca. Thank you very much, Kim, Brian, Deborah, everybody from OnviSource. Thank you very much. Sarah, thanks for setting this up. And we look forward to seeing you guys all at the next webinar that we have. Greatly appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
everybody.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time today. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Bye.